You're watching Study with Sudhir. This is your digital classroom. My name is T.S. Sudhir. We are looking at a poem which is part of the Flamingo NCERT textbook. This is meant for CBSE class 12 students, and we are going to be learning about our national animal, the tiger. But this is a poem called Aunt Jennifer's Tigers and written by Adrian Rich. Who was born in Baltimore in Maryland in USA. Maryland, for those of you who are not familiar, is a place very close to Washington DC, and Baltimore is in Maryland. And she was known for her involvement in contemporary women's movement as a poet and a theorist. So this poem, which is part of the class 12 CBSE syllabus, is a very short poem but a very powerful poem, okay, and written from a woman's perspective, and that's what you would need to know. You need to be aware of the perspective with which the poem has been actually written, okay. As I said, it's a three stanza poem, and the tip that is given by CBSE examiners is that the students must try to read the poem from the poet's point of view. That's something very important. And the commonly made error, because students tend to think that this is a very short poem and therefore also think it's a very simple poem to understand, but the mistake they make is to not understand the context of the tigers, why the tigers were being drawn, embroidered by Aunt Jennifer, what is really the meaning and what is it meant to convey. So in this detailed explanation, not a summary of 5 minutes, 7 minutes, which many others put out, we will be doing a detailed word by word explanation. Now, what is the poem all about? Let me talk about that before we get into the stanzas of the poem. Now, basically, it is the depiction of a particular woman who has suffered greatly at the hands of her husband. Okay, so this is the tale of a married woman who, instead of actually opposing the behavior of her husband, what she does is to show her feelings by creating tigers, and there is a photograph which has been put on your textbook also, by creating tigers on a woolen strip of cloth. Okay. She at the same time, one of the things that has been pointed out is that on one of her fingers is also her wedding ring, and the wedding ring seems to have a whole lot of weight. Okay, it's almost like a burden as far as this particular lady is concerned, and that kind of inhibits her movements and even in general her entire lifespan. She's gone through a whole lot of trials and tribulations, a whole lot of torture during her marital life, and therefore she adopts the tiger as her ideal, that is the animal she would want to emulate, but perhaps she is not able to summon the courage to be a tigress in real life, right? Because the tiger, as we know, is a symbol of power, it's a symbol of strength, it's a symbol of freedom while it is in the forest. It's also the symbol of a great degree of self-confidence, and perhaps all these aspects are missing as far as Aunt Jennifer is concerned, and therefore she tries to find some meaning to her life by drawing these tigers, okay, as part of her embroidery work. Now, what are tigers also kind of conveying? They are an animal who is not afraid, who is not scared of man. Okay, in this context, we could also relate it to the man in Aunt's life. While her own fingers are actually a little weak to pull the needle through the wool, and also her hands are also bearing the burden of the ring, the wedding ring that she is wearing, whereas the contrast is to the tiger, which actually has a whole lot of freedom while it is in the forest. So that is essentially the brief summary as far as the poem is concerned, so that now that is clear, when we go through it stanza by stanza, it will make it easier for you to understand. Now, when we are introduced to Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across a screen. Now, prance essentially is a word which basically conveys a sense of rapid movement. It conveys also a sense of dancing. In a sense, it conveys a sense of gay abandon. You know, there is a lot of masti associated with the word called prance. We generally use the word prancing. You know, the children were prancing in the park. Okay, the children were prancing on the street. So that's the kind of words which are generally used. So she is kind of talking about these tigers which are prancing across a screen, and she is creating these animals that are very different from her own character, right? Now, when you are talking about Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across a screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. They pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. Now, when you are talking about chivalry, it's essentially talking about how you need to be gallant, you need to be brave, you need to be, chivalry is something associated generally with man. You know that a man is supposed to be chivalrous as far as a woman is concerned. So there is a certain sense of dignity with which the tigers move around, and that's what she is conveying through her embroidery, right? So the poem is addressing the inhibitions, the constraints of married life that a woman experiences, and it is in the reference of this aunt, but it could be true of any married woman. They highlight, of course, also the patriarchal attitude of society, and this is again not specific to American society, it could be applicable to any society in any country in the world. And Aunt Jennifer also obviously is a victim of such a society, of such a marriage, and she is leading obviously an unhappy married life because through her marital life she has been dominated and continues to be dominated by her husband. So she draws these drawings, she embroiders these jumping tigers. Tigers prance across a screen. The jumping tigers on a particular panel, if you have seen how embroidery is generally done, you must have seen it, anyone in your family doing it. Basically it is to give language and give vent to her own pent up emotions, because she also wants to lead the same life where she can actually also express her emotions. But throughout her married life she has led a life where she is completely bottled up her emotions. So she wants to be a tiger in real life, which she can't be, or she is not able to muster the courage to be. So she draws them as part of her embroidery design. So the tigers, she says, are golden in color. They are golden in color and they are not afraid of men who are sitting beneath a tree, as the tigers themselves are symbolic of absolute lack of fear, of fearlessness. They are symbolic of bravery, they are symbolic of courage. So they do not fear the men beneath the tree, they pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. So there is something very certain, very confident about the manner in which they move around. That's what basically the tigers are supposed to convey. They have bright yellow coat, as we know the tiger, we are not referring to the white and black stripes tiger, we are referring to the yellow, the golden yellow and the black color stripes tigers, who are fearless of the men who are standing under the tree, and they are proud of their own freedom and physical strength, power and physical attributes. Now in contrast, the second stanza, once again after the tigers have been introduced, they talk about the aunt again. Now aunt is essentially a weak kind of a person, and her feeble fingers, her very weak fingers are unable to even pull a light needle. She is creating this very mighty looking and powerful and courageous tigers on a panel, on the embroidery panel, but her own marital life has been in that sense anything but that. That is, it has not been powerful, it has not had any strength. She is essentially the weak link as far as her marital equation, her marital relationship is concerned. So in that sense, she will remain a slave even when she is no more and goes to the grave. Whereas the tigers who have been created by her will continue to play along merrily, all the time, proud and fearless. So let's now go through the lines once again. Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. So the rhyming meter, if you notice, is ABAB, screen, green, tree, certainty, wool, pull, band, hand. So it's ABAB, it's a simple conventional kind of a rhyming meter. So she's so terrified, the aunt is so terrified of her husband that her fingers actually tremble even when she has to just pull a needle through wool, which is actually very light. So actually should not kind of strain her fingers or her hand in any way. But she's so terrified, her nature and personality has become so so much of a scared kind of a person that she finds it difficult to even summon the courage or summon the strength rather to pull the needle through the wool. And that is kind of symbolic of both her physical, definitely, as well as her emotional weakness. Okay, so please write down these notes as I speak. And the wedding ring, the massive weight of uncle's wedding band. So the wedding ring which she is wearing actually seems rather heavy to her, as she finds it difficult to go ahead as her married life, in a sense, instead of giving her the freedom to flourish, actually has been extremely binding on her. It has kind of curtailed her strength. Okay, it sits heavily on Aunt Jennifer's hand. So the ring actually is symbolic, and I will tell you more about it towards the end of the poem, once we finish with the third stanza, that the ring is in that sense a very constraining kind of a presence on Aunt Jennifer's finger. Now, if you see one of the poetic devices which has been used, fingers fluttering, which is alliteration, you know, when the same consonant is used in quick succession to for two words next to each other in the stanza, right? Now, the third stanza, when aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. Ordeals as in challenges and problems. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid, right? Denizen, which is part of the first stanza, essentially means a person. It's sometimes used even as a synonym of citizen many times, you know, the denizens of a particular city. It also means an animal or a plant that lives, grows and or is often found in a particular place, essentially an inhabitant of a particular area, right? Sleek, as I said, you know, it conveys a sense of style, it conveys a sense of shine and or sheer elegance. Now, in the third stanza, Aunt Jennifer clearly is so dominated that even when she is dead, she will not be able to gain freedom from the sheer terror unleashed by her husband through their years of marriage. We do not know how many years they have been married, but it obviously seems that it has been a rather long time. Her hands would still be ringed, still ringed with ordeals, still ringed with the ordeals of her married life. The ordeals means all the negative experiences of her married life that she was mastered by. Master again conveys an equation which is that of a master and a pupil. It conveys an equation which is not a equal relationship, right? You understand? So, but the tigers in the panel that she made, okay, the tigers that she has embroidered will keep on prancing, you know, will keep on prancing. So the word prancing being repeated essentially to convey the delight of motion of a tiger. Any one of you who has seen a tiger kind of leaping or running around will see the elegance in the way a tiger actually moves, especially in the forest, right? So with which she has will keep on prancing. It also shows the difference, the contrast between art and a real human being. They can prance in a field of art, but this human being who's actually drawing that sheer exuberance of a tiger, sheer elegance, sleekness of a tiger, is not able to summon the same elegance in her own real life, that is Aunt Jennifer, which also conveys the point that art, while she will be no more, and that will be the end of Aunt Jennifer's time on earth, story on earth as such, but art will continue to be proud and unafraid, and in that sense immortal. The embroidery that she is making will continue to live on even when she is no more, right? And it will survive her death. It will continue to live on, and that will be in that sense what she wanted to be, what she could not to be. Okay, so this is why Aunt Jennifer's tigers are a reflection of what she wanted to be, her aspiration to be, but she could never summon the courage that a tiger is essentially naturally blessed with. Okay, the elegance, the bravery, the courage and the sense of freedom. Okay, I hope this one is clear. Again, in this one there is an alliteration which has been used, which is prancing, proud. Again, P, peak, the consonants being repeated close to each other. Now the point to be noted is that the word ringed, which has been used in the second sentence of the third stanza, actually has two connotations. One, of course, is a straight connotation of the ring, which is the wedding ring that she is wearing, and that's also a symbol of the relationship between the wife and the husband. But in this particular case, more in Aunt Jennifer's case, it is also symbolic of the ring which it has kind of created around her, that lack of freedom that it actually conveys, and it's a sense of being bound by the relationship of marriage. When you also see it in kind of conjunction, in sync with the word mastered by, it kind of creates an image of a circus ring. Now what happens inside a circus ring? For those of you have seen a circus, the ringmaster actually controls even the tiger, even the lion, even the wild beast. Of course, nowadays, of course, you don't have wild animals performing in circus, but in the times gone by, the ringmaster would be able to control even the most wild cat, the most wild beast inside the circus ring. In this marriage that she is part of, the husband is like the master, the ring master, while she is kind of bound by the ring, and therefore she has to carry out whatever she is ordered to by her husband, because there is that constant element of fear as far as she is concerned in the relationship with the husband. Okay, so that is as far as the explanation, detailed explanation of this particular poem is concerned. I hope you have understood it. Let's go through some of the questions that you could possibly be asked, or what have come in previous years' board papers. For instance, you may be given one of the three stanzas, and this was given in 2015 as well as in 2017. The first stanza which was given, and it asks, why are the tigers called Aunt Jennifer's tigers? So what do you need to say? Aunt Jennifer has embroidered them because they are representative of her own hidden aspirations, own hidden emotions, right? And desires. What does a world of green mean? The world of green means inside the forest. And how are the tigers different from the creator? The tigers are different from the creator as in Aunt Jennifer, because they are strong, free and confident, unlike Aunt Jennifer, who is obviously an extremely scared kind of person, afraid of her husband. Chivalric, what does the word chivalric mean? I have already told you, it means gallant or brave. Then the same one, when it came, Aunt Jennifer's tigers have been described as golden yellow in color, unafraid and chivalric. They are the ones who are not afraid of men. Another question which came in 2016 is, why are Aunt Jennifer's fingers fluttering? They are fluttering because she is nervous, she is terrified, she is not a very confident kind of a person, and what's the result of the fluttering? She finds it difficult to pull even the ivory needle. Okay, so you may be given a particular stanza, but you could be asked questions relating to the other two stanzas as well. So you need to be familiar with the entire poem and be able to understand each and every word, what it actually means in this entire poem. Explain, for instance, the massive weight of uncle's wedding band. Now, after marriage, Aunt Jennifer is bound to live with her husband who ill-treats her, and as a result, she feels extremely constrained and shackled in her marriage, right? And what's her state of mind? Her state of mind is one of turmoil. She's greatly perturbed and she's very anxious, fearful and sad, and that's what all finds reflection in the manner in which she does her embroidery, that she is not even able to pull the needle through the wool. So those are some of the questions which have come. For instance, in 2017 compartment exam, you were asked a question like, what is suggested by the image of the massive weight of uncle's wedding band and why is it heavy? So it basically talks about you need to talk about how it curtails her freedom, it keeps her chained, and mentally also she is almost in fetters as in Fetters. So it's almost like she's chained as a result of the wedding band. So that's a symbol of the kind of marriage, the nature of the marriage that she is in right now. Then the word prancing, I told you, it means dancing and moving around rapidly. a few other points. For instance, why do you think Aunt Jennifer, these are the short answer type questions, why do you think Aunt Jennifer created animals that are so different from her own character? So the point, apart from what all I've explained to you, you also need to talk about that they essentially represented her own secret desire, her own secret longing to live a brave and a very fearless life like the tigers did. So that's another thing that you need to talk about. How does Aunt Jennifer express her bitterness and anger against male domination? This came in 2014 compartment exam. You need to talk about that she expresses her bitterness by knitting tigers on the panel which symbolize bravery, freedom and courage. Okay. The massive weight of uncle's wedding band, we have already spoken about that. It's a responsibility of marriage which kind of constrain her. Why is she ringed with ordeals? This came in 2014 and 2012. That she is surrounded by the constraints of married life and she's probably dominated by her husband throughout her life. She was obviously comes across as a very timid and a very scared kind of a person who could not stand up to her husband, who could not kind of say to her husband that what he's doing is wrong. So in that sense, she remained a caged bird of sorts within her marriage, right? And she only bore the sufferings quietly, meekly, without actually protesting about the kind of treatment that she was being subjected to. What will happen when Aunt Jennifer is dead? That's a question which came in 2018 compartment examination. The answer that you will need to write is that when Aunt Jennifer will be dead, she will still remain chained to the ordeals of her married life in the same way as she was mastered by her husband when she was alive, right? It is considered that she will not be able to shake off the shackles of her married life, and since the society is male dominated, it will show no concern for Aunt Jennifer's sufferings. Even after her death, she will remain ringed by the ordeals she was mastered by, just as when she was alive. So these are the points that you need to write and quote from the poem, because that in that case you will go get those 2 marks or 4 marks, whatever be the number of marks question that you will get. So these are some of the questions that you will get. Please look at the questions at the back of the poem. What is the attitude of the speaker towards Aunt Jennifer? This is written from the point of view of a woman. So it's obviously an attitude of empathy, of understanding, that she understands the reason why Aunt Jennifer is actually drawing these tigers, and she's able to understand her state of mind, which is what is reflected in this particular poem. So that's as far as this poem is concerned. Please do let me know if you have understood it thoroughly. If there is any problem, do write in the comment section. More than happy to address them. Thank you very much for watching. We'll continue to do the entire class 12 English syllabus on Study with Sudhir. So keep watching Study with Sudhir. I do hope that in the next month and a half we would be able to do so completely. Thank you very much for watching.